Y'all surprised me. I put up this poll on my community page. What are you more interested in me reviewing? Jack White, the titan of 21st century rock music, whatever the hell Jack White is. Someone who just got a yellow flannel from Fantano on that album. And, I know basically all my viewers also watch Fantano stuff. I put Jack White up against this person I hadn't even heard of until a couple weeks ago when some of you told me I needed to review Parannoul. Parannoul, and the album Skye 100. Now, of course, it has my name in it. It's me 100, but I figured it was going to be a bloodbath. It was going to be a complete and total landslide. Jack White, 98%, Parannoul 2. Well, that goes to show how little I understand about the kind of people who watch my channel. It speaks well of you. And just of how popular Parannoul is. It ended up being 53% in favor of Jack White, 47%, with over 1,000 votes for Parannoul. So thank you very much. Thank you for showing up. And I want to say to you and to me and to all of us, good job, us. Good job, music nerds. According to what I was told by some people and what I found doing research, Parannoul became popular because Rate Your Music, a lot of people said that it was good. Of all the thousands and thousands and thousands and thousands of good musicians who go unlistened to, it is heartening to know that Reddit and Rate Your Music and Pitchfork and even Fantano's old review of his previous album all helped us find this musician who is fighting one of my favorite things to fight, English linguistic hegemony. Okay? That's like a super important thing because we talk about privilege all the time in this country and in this world, and yet we keep cutting language programs. We keep telling people who speak English, you don't need to learn languages. You get to be a colonizer in every word you speak for the rest of your life in perpetuity, okay? It's the one area of colonialism that everyone appears to be on board on. And if you are a leftist and monolingual, I'm sorry to say, you might be a part of the problem, okay? So, at the very least, it's an album entirely in Korean that has a lot of popularity with a lot of people who are going out there and getting out of their comfort zone. So I was, and I'm on board for music nerds being good instead of asking you to name 5 songs. And that's not my joke. That's Ted's joke. I'll talk about Ted in a second. Thank you for auditing the Always Positive New Music Review Show, hosted by a French professor who has a few brief words on Korea itself. I was listening to this with my daughter, who likes to listen to all the music I review. And she's like, this is really good. And she said, is it bad that I'm surprised that music like this comes out of Korea? Now, I said, music like what? Super well-made, very personal, emotionally powerful emo/shoegaze style rock with amazing lyrics, great production, and drum sounds that are really innovative and out of this world and as heart-rending and perceptive as any music made in English. Yes, you should feel bad that you're that surprised. But to her credit, she did go to Korea last year. She was at the World Jamboree for Scouts. So was my son. They both, this is not an exaggeration, almost died of dehydration because it was so poorly run. So in her experience recently in Korea, all she ever heard was K-pop. Okay? And I want to take a second here and okay. My knowledge of Korean culture does go beyond K-pop, Parasite, and Hunger Games, Squid Games, right? But let's take a second to actually credit those things and Psy, Gangnam Style, because I think they laid the path. The fact that we are able to hear this music, or that many people are able to hear this music and take it seriously and appreciate it, might be downstream from the fact that American popular culture, that the Anglophone popular culture sphere has decided to accept things that are in Korean. And that might be some of Blackpink's lyrics, that might be Parasite, okay? It's all important that we normalize non-English culture, that we normalize subtitles, that we normalize not understanding everything, that we have that same experience that the vast majority of the world has when they listen to music in English, where they can get it even if they don't get it. And that's what makes this album so great, is you get it. I heard this album all the way through and I knew exactly what he was talking about. I knew exactly how he felt. And I couldn't understand a single word. Now, that's the power of music. That's the power of art. Now, I do have a personal history with the country of Korea. I spent about a month there in 2007. And do you know my most successful video of all time? The most successful video I have ever put up on YouTube. It's not Drake or Black Country New Road. It's a video which has since been taken down. When I went there, my son fell in love with a Korean TV show called Pororo. It's about a penguin and a polar bear. Polar bear's the best. Popey. That's my favorite character. Who, like, have a little adventure. Its messaging is a little conservative, you know, from a Western perspective. The gender roles are not awesome. I think that's probably why it didn't transfer that well over to America. But it's a great and delightful show, and it didn't exist anywhere in English. So I bought bootleg copies of Pororo in Korean with English subtitles, and I ripped them to YouTube. I had 3.4 million views on the intro music. Pororo plays hockey. I had like 1 million views on that. And I wasn't monetizing it. I just wanted somewhere where people could appreciate Pororo. Okay? You know, when I was there, I went all around the country. You know, I didn't just stay in Seoul. Obviously, I spent most of my time in Seoul, but I went to places like Andong, Jinju, best place in the world to eat eels. I went to a restaurant that had 3 things on the menu: beef soup, saltwater eel, freshwater eel. Very good. Went to Gwangju. By mistake, went to a place called Ganju, one of the roughest places I've ever been. Went all the way down south to Yasu, you know, so I had a really interesting time there. And this was before the cultural wave that's here now of Korean culture being so popular. Had a lot of interesting cultural follies. Took a taxi ride, and apparently it's customary for men, if they don't know something, not to admit it. So my broken Korean, his broken English, meant that neither of us knew where I was going. And I was just driving around in circles for like 45 minutes. And I just had to say, oh yes, this is it. And I had to pay him to get out of there. Now, my favorite thing about Korean culture, and this is like, I'm not trying to put down other things, but it's the language. Like when you're there, I was there for a month. I came in knowing no Hangul. Didn't speak a single word, okay? I knew 안녕주세요, I knew 감사합니다, and that's it. I just knew those couple of words. And I mostly knew Anyang because of Arrested Development, which I think we could do a whole kind of cultural breakdown of Arrested Development, but I'm not going to do that now. But the language, the way that the language was created, I believe it was by King Sejong, is the person who formalized the language, or at least who took the credit of it, means that if you like math, or if you like language, or like language systems, you can like be in Korea for 3 weeks, and like by the end of the first week you can read it. It's fascinating. It all makes sense. It's this weird kind of like grid pattern that you learn how to properly read. It is like, I want to go back because obviously the food is amazing and the people are very friendly and it's a great place and there's lots of great things to see. Unfortunately, a lot of the great things to see were destroyed by Japan over many wars and many invasions and all that stuff. So it's a complicated place to visit in that way. But just the language itself is just so beautiful. So here I am and I've got this Parannoul and I'm like, okay, good, Parannoul. I didn't see it in a Korean dictionary. I thought maybe it was a clumsy portmanteau, like Carlifer, you know, like paranoid and soul, like being paranoid and soul. It is a word in Finnish for healing, so maybe that's what it is, or maybe it has some other meaning. Maybe that's his last name. I don't know what he looks like. Is he they? Is he multiple people? I think it's just one guy. And then we have the title of the album, Skye 100. So what's cool about the word Skye is that in many languages, many Asian languages, it has a very powerful meaning. So this is actually true, weirdly true. When I was born, I was called Baby. They didn't have a name for me. I was the 4th kid, so what are they? We expect me to name 4 of these things. So they initially called me Jasper, and then my nanny, a British lady, said, "Oh, you don't want to sound, people call him a little ghost." So I wasn't named Jasper. But my dad was, for strange reasons, obsessed with the poetry of dictator Mao Zedong. Okay, so he was learning Chinese grass stroke a little bit from a friend of his, and he was fascinated by, and this is my rough depiction of the sign for sky. Now in Chinese, and again, this is my approximation, this is not good calligraphy right here. It means a man under heaven. That's actually what Tian means. Like, it has that kind of power. That's why you'll sometimes see this symbol. That's how I sign my name sometimes. If I don't want to write out my name, it's an intentional bastardization to make it look like an E at the end there. And it turns out that's the same thing with sky in Korean. Sky in Korean can mean like, the sky in sort of like a weather sense. But it can also have like a very almost like fatalistic, cosmic, heavenly importance. And so here I am trying to figure out what is it, because he named it Skye in English. But fortunately, he wrote an artist statement, which I'll get into in a second. And in that, I saw the Hangul that he used. You can see it back there. I put it back there. He used the one for sky, heaven, ether, the more sort of ethereal meaning that is perhaps closer to the Chinese one. We say the same thing in English a little bit, like up in the sky, but I think it has a lot more power in Asian languages. At least that's how I interpret it. If you speak an Asian language and you would like to comment on this, please tell me, because I'm not an expert on Korean culture. I dilly-dallied for like a little while. I'm not an expert on Asian languages. I'm not an expert on Asian cultures. I'm not an expert on Japanese invasions of Korea. So if I said that in the wrong way, please let me know. I like this to be a dialogue. I am an expert in like how to teach French. So I got you beat on that. You want to come to me with some kind of inductive teaching method, I've got you beat. But the stuff I'm talking about now, I'm just bringing an open-minded, loving interpretation. Okay, this was as well as I did. This is my travel journal from Korea. A whole bunch of fun stuff there. This was as well as I did with my Hangul. So this is what I wrote down to try to get to some place for the taxi. And that didn't get me there. That was my best work, and that did not get me there. The guy didn't know what it was. So let's get to the album now. Now that we've talked a little bit about this, kind of personal history. I've told those stories before, but I told them on K-pop videos. And like, probably you haven't seen my K-pop videos, even though I think they're pretty good. Because again, there are very important things to be said about K-pop as it pertains to sort of appropriating Black American culture. Please see Empty Signifier's video. I know Lil Bill also comments on that and talks about that a fair amount. So check out their videos on that. That's quite interesting. But as far as someone who's against English linguistic hegemony, they are doing great work. So here's the artist statement about this album, Sky Heaven. And I think it's important to read in its entirety. And maybe you already know, maybe you've already read it, maybe this is an introduction, but my hope is that my analyses will stand as like a magazine article that you can come back to in the future and say like, hey, what were people thinking about Parannoul back then? He says, time passes no matter you're wandering or not. The people who seemed to always be here together are leaving, and the feelings I felt when I made my 2021 began to disappear. The more I hid, the more I became exposed. I came out, but the pressure I made myself was abandoning me. I did not want to see myself getting ugly in each memory. I finally understood the real fear of nostalgia based on absence. The sky is watching hundreds of me, and no one has answered in front of me what makes the difference between them and me. What will happen to those who are left behind? If the end of magic is something that everyone experiences, is there meaning in falling? 100 skies have shone brighter than me, and I think I've grown too precious to accept the truth and disappearance. I dedicate this album to those who still listen to my songs, to my family, and to those who have left, and to hundreds of me. This is what we call the poetic register, okay? He is speaking poetically. Now, you think I don't know much about Korean culture. I know basically jack about Korean poetry, but I did do a little bit. I didn't listen. I read a little bit of Korean poetry when I was in Korea. Reading poetry is a very easy way to understand sort of a lot about a culture in a very brief period of time. So, I did a little research for this video. And I think when I tell you some of the common themes of Korean poetry, according to no less august of a source than Wikipedia, nature, nostalgia of the past, love interests, historical events, and moral instruction. If you know this album, nature, okay, and that's a very important aspect of a lot of Eastern poetry, is integrating nature into the way that you describe daily life, integrating it into your poems and into your poetry. It's an important thing, which it is important to emphasize is not that. I mean, it happens in Western poetry, but I would say with less frequency. Please correct me if I sound like a schmuck, okay? So I just randomly just said, okay, so who's considered like the poet? Who is the Baudelaire? Who is the Whitman of Korea? Okay, and it's a guy named Seo Jung-ju, SEOJUNG-JU. Correct my pronunciation all day long if you wish. And his poetry, again, landscape, meaning of nature, memory, existential searching, loss and change. So much of this album is loss and change. And I'm not trying to say like, oh, he's just being another Korean poet. I'm just trying to help give you maybe just some more cultural background, because this is a poet who, if you study Korean poetry, is the first one that you come up with. And I'm now going to read you his most famous poem, This As Your Day. Okay? So if I was like a better YouTuber, you know, I would have like Zoe be on like speed dial. Be like, can you read this for me and do that thing that YouTubers do? But you're just gonna have to get me. So this is This As Your Day by Seo Jung-ju. On this blindingly as your day, let us long for those we miss. There where autumn flowers sit, green has given into red. Let the snow fall, let spring return. What if you are alive when I die? What if I am alive when you die? On this blindingly as your day, let us long for those who miss. I'm not tricking you. I didn't actually secretly read you lyrics off of this album, but when I get to some of the lyrics, you are going to be like, wow, themes of nature and change and longing and loss. Oh my God. So anyways, let's talk about the music, shall we? Now, a term that jumped to my mind, but turns out I was actually ripping off somebody who I'm going to credit in a second, but is the concept of bedroom shoegaze, which I think is sort of an oxymoron, even though it exists. Because when I think of bedroom music, I think of kind of minimalist music. I think of sort of tiny, whispery, keep quiet so you don't wake mom up, you know, that kind of stuff. And then shoegaze, I think of, I always want to call them My Chemical Romance, My Bloody Valentine, and you think of just walls of guitars and walls of sound and layers and layers and layers and layers and layers. As much as a work can be that sort of bedroomy, intimate, personal, and with all these different layers, noises, so many little things happening all over the place, that's in this whole project. You know, and just the most important thing we can talk about. Sorry, that I might end up having to pause this video and go take care of my baby. We're going to see. It's a new thing that happens. She's fine. She's just probably hungry. She likes eating cannellini beans and bananas at the same time. If you want to be cool at home, you try that mixture. It's not good. The most important thing we can say about this whole project, I think, musically, is the drums. The drums are amazingly played, and the sound of the drums. They are so ratty. So there's a thing where when you have a drum, right? You have two heads on a drum. So you have the barrel. Now I have a helicopter overhead. What am I, Ray Liotta? So you have like a barrel of the drum. Then you have the front head, and you need that because there's nothing to hit if there's no head there, and that makes a doong sound, you know. But there's also a head on the back, and that helps to create sort of a compressed sound. So it sounds like do 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 do. If you take off that back head, it can get ratty. It can get rough. It can be dum. It can be dum. And this whole album sounds like he took the back off of the tom. Now I don't know. I guess it's possible that this is all made in a computer. In which case, all hail our ant overlords, because this album sounds like real drums as much as real drums can sound like to me, especially the way that they're played. So if this is a facsimile of real drumming, Jesus Christ, great. Then we don't need real drummers anymore. And I say that as a drummer, okay? The vocals are great. They're so moving. You know, when I was listening to it with my daughter, we listened to like 3 songs, and then afterwards she's like, hey, wait, is this in English? Because there's a thing about kind of emo music, about kind of shoegaze music, about kind of bedroom music, where it can be just so vibey that you don't even necessarily notice. Another thing I would say about bedroom music, and even about shoegaze music, and even about emo music, is it can be solipsistic. Solipsistic is a fancy word for navel gazing. Navel gazing is a term that people use for like stuff that's just too obsessed with yourself, like staring at your own belly button and talking about your belly button length, as opposed to talking about the outside world. This album is very much about his life, about right now, about these changes that he's had since having this fame because all of you music nerds decided to be cool and like cool music that wasn't in English. It's about this nostalgic feeling, but I think I'm going to say something profound, and I think the thing I'm saying that's profound is about this music. I could be misreading it, so tell me if you disagree. Nostalgia that comes from loss, that comes with growth. Growth is great. I've grown so much as a person. The person I was when I was filling this thing out with my now ex-wife, like this person here, Not a particularly good father. I'm going to be honest. Not a particularly kind friend. That's a crunky. I'm not the person I am now. I'm very happy the person I am now, and I'm happy about that. But then here's the loss. I do remember the hot mess that I was back then. I do sort of remember kind of fondly the person that I was back then. That is a form of loss. I told you I'd talk about Ted. Ted is my friend who I grew up with in high school. He's also an actor. He's a voice actor. He's in the new Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtle show. He plays like a construction truck driver. That's my buddy Ted. And he was always into emo music. He was into emo music way before emo music was a thing. He was a hipster emo, to the point where I bought a Remo drum head, speaking of drum heads, and I cut off the R and gave it to him as a sticker, because there's a sticker for Remo drums, and he had on the back of his car, it said emo. And then all of a sudden, emo meant something else. But for a period of time, emo really meant something. And my suspicion was this music manages to do what emo used to do. I sent him the link. I think he likes it. I think he sees what I'm saying. I think that if you have a friend who liked emo back when it was American football and, God, all the stupid band names he liked. Texas is the Reason, and Promise Ring, and the 8 offshoots of Promise Ring, and the 11,000 offshoots of Sunny Day Real Estate, all that stuff. I think that's for you. 22 minutes in, I still haven't talked about a damn song. And I'm not going to yet. Smash the like button, subscribe. If you like my prolix steez. If you want to leave a comment, and apparently comments are the only thing YouTube cares about anymore. I almost called it eBay. I almost called YouTube eBay. AVAA stands for awesome video as always, or it can stand for ass video as always if you want to insult me. I accept those too. Just leave a comment. I asked my Patreons if they would like a shout out. Zach, Maya Weberen, and Jack Dyson all did. And then Riley Atkinson. I said, help me out here because I don't know much about this. And I am going to allow Riley Atkinson to provide a proper introduction to Parannoul if you don't know his music. I'm going to quote him entirely. This is the guy who came up with that term bedroom shoegaze that I thought I came up with. Plagiarism is a bitch. It's really tough. It's very easy to plagiarize, especially if you just talk on camera for an hour. Riley says, a single-person South Korean shoegaze project that came to prominence via sites like Rate Your Music, where their 2021 album was a huge hit. Initially, their music was distributed by a small U.S. label called Longinus Records. It also distributed music of Asian Glow and Sonhos Tomam Kanta. All 3 acts are part of the same wave of bedroom shoegaze, I guess you could call it. Parannoul, the biggest success though, boosted hugely by their 2023 After the Magic, getting major recognition from journalists including Pitchfork. From the start though, young people online who discovered them through Write Your Music and Bandcamp, including himself, really responded to the strong melodies, intense performance, heavy compression, and loud sound, poetic lyricism. Their early records were 100% digitally created, though I'm not sure if that's still the case. It could well be. There's so much passion in Parannoul's music, which was initially about the pain of loneliness and depression, but as their success has led them to a new community of friends and musicians, to me, the music has only gotten more uplifting and spirited. I don't know their old stuff, so I'm going to have to take your opinion on your word. The new album sounds like an ecstatic victory lap in that respect. It's a life-affirming story that I considered them my artist of the decade, frontrunner for how it represents the most positive and hopeful possibilities of how art can be made and reach people in the current era. Can't wait to hear what you think. So, I hear that upliftingness. I also think it's very sad, but the thing is, truthfully, sad music is important for happy people. Okay? All right, so I'm going to give you a stamp. An example song. Why not start off with the first song, A Lot Can Happen? I'm not going to try to pronounce it in Korean. Piano opens kind of gentle. And then loud prog thrash, cool time signature, pianos tracing these lines, and these whiny sounds like just blown out maximalist. These drums. God damn it. It's a real drummer. I don't care. I don't care if I'm wrong. I'm officially saying he's playing drums on this album, an actual drum set. I'm saying he's sitting there somewhere in one of those apartments in Seoul. They have so many apartments. Huge apartment buildings. Just unbelievable. Huge apartment buildings. A lot of them have advertisements on the top too. Anyways, but yeah, he's sitting there playing drums in his apartment. And then the old style emo singing, and it sounds like maybe it's doubled or has a chorus, and it's over this piano. And at this point, and I'm not going to go through all of the musical stuff throughout the entire album, but for this one song, I'm just going to try to illustrate the maximal madness that's going on here. So he's singing over the piano, and the hi-hat, right? The drums right now are just a hi-hat tracing the eighth notes, just a closed hi-hat. But then it starts growing with this awesome blown-out floor tom playing. And just you end up like as it builds and the drums get funkier, you end up kind of like nodding your head and feeling the music. And there's a certain part where in between, like maybe the second and third verse, or maybe before the chorus, I can't quite tell. There's this double hi-hat bit playing here, and the drums just get funkier and funkier and more syncopated. The snares are being hit on the 3, and in between 1 and 2. 1, 2, 3, 4. All right, that's where the snares are, and it cuts out at a certain point. There's just the drums, and so much is happening with the melody, so much emotional strength. A term that's used on the Bandcamp is chamber pop, and I believe it. It has that kind of power, that kind of development. This is closer to like the Beach Boys than it is to, I don't know, Sunny Day Real Estate, okay? Like it really, Jesus, that might be a big thing to say. I'm not sure I believe that. Tell me in the comments if I believe that. At a certain point, like there's almost like wacky maximal stuff happening on the piano that might even be a little bit out of tune. It gets just so emotional, and these arpeggiated synths come in, and I think they're even a little bit out of rhythm. And then you might have heard the song 1,000 times and not notice how much towards the end the entire thing changes. And what was kind of a ascending feeling is now a descending feeling with this lead guitar and multiple lead electric guitars kind of tracing these little down notes. And my favorite part, the entire album is around 3 minutes and 52 seconds in. All this noise, and it cuts out. Boom, clap, just this little boom, clap, and then it goes bam, right back. It cuts entirely out. All this noise, all this layers. I just have this image of his computer with just like hundreds and hundreds of tracks on his GarageBand or Fruity Loops or Fruit Loopies, whatever the hell it's called, right? And just for just this one part, it's just boom, clap. Awesome, and then it comes back into the chorus and just distorts out. The lyrics, it's all in keeping with this great poetic vision of how his life has changed. I believe what was upside down was this world. When will it be comfortable to sit upside down to look at memories? Even after everything, I want to believe the feeling lasts forever. Hope nothing happens tomorrow and the day after. See you soon. The fear of loss, the potential for impending. The thing about existentialism, and this is a very existential album, the thing about existentialism is that it can be very hopeful, even though you know you're going to die and that tomorrow's not promised and there will be a tomorrow where you're not going to be there, right? It can lead to, first of all, reinforcing your relationship to other people and understanding that the visions you have don't mean anything because we're all going to die. What's the point? So might as well be in community with people. But the other thing is it just can be free. You can just be sort of free. You know, and this has that kind of lightness to it, despite the fact it seems to be semi-obsessed with tomorrow's not coming. Going to go through the rest of the album a little bit quicker. Gold River, kind of a blown-out waltz. I love the way the language sounds in the hook of this song. Kyoko de, I don't know what he's saying. You know, but it's just great. Great drum usage. Also, just his ability to use little tinkling sounds. Just the snare, the sound of the snare. I remember memories of memories. I remember memories of memories. I remember memories of memories. I won't forget your bright golden river. Another day passes And the sun goes by, the sky changes 100 and becomes cloudy. I remember memories of memories. I won't forget your bright golden river. Ladies and gentlemen, I'm going to be releasing a review of the album Blonde by Frank Ocean. Eventually, my wife is going to give birth. I don't know when. You can't plan these things. It's supposed to be already, but we'll see. Supposed to be. Who am I? God? So, like, when that happens, I've already recorded a video all explaining the Proustian nature of Frank Blonde's Ocean. And I think you could actually do a Frank Ocean study of Skye 100 through the lens of the Proustianness of both projects. Because so much of what Proust is about the nature of memories and how we are as different from the... When you remember something at different times of your life is as different as you are from the thing that you're remembering. So put it this way. If I remembered my trip to Korea in 2007, okay, if I remembered that trip in 2009, okay, the difference between how I remembered it in 2009 versus how I remember it now is as great of a difference as how I remember 2007. It's like different. We're different people when we remember things differently. That's the kind of thing that Proust gets at. That's the kind of thing that Frank Ocean gets at. And that's the kind of thing that Parannoul's getting at. Dear God, did I say his name correctly? I've misspelled this man's name so many times. I believe Parannoul is correct. So, maybe between these two videos, I'm going to get y'all to read some Proust. You may want to wait, though. You may want to wait till your late 20s. I don't know if you can really appreciate Proust until you've led enough life. Because it's tough. It gets better the older you get. I'm not trying to be patronizing. I'm talking about myself, too. Maybe somewhere very sort of smashing pumpkins-y feeling with these arpeggiated guitar chords. A little more intimate. Still nicely clipped snare sounds. The piano is super longing, maybe even cheesy. And really relatable young person lyrics. Like when I waited for the snow to come, like when I hated adolescence, like when passion burned my body, like when I first met you, my immature and young heart which made everything out of nothing so that I can remember even my back bent so that the future can hear me. Dear God, this seriously, I could have just done a whole just Proust. I left my copy of Proust downstairs. My wife's a little bit upset with me because I have so many damn props for my videos. I pull everything out, you know. Like I pull this out. I pull this little puppy out. Okay, I got that at some folk restaurant somewhere. I think I got this in Andong, which let me tell you, very weird. It's very easy to go places in Korea where they have not seen people who look like you. And that was one of those places. And my son at the time was like a little 2-year-old blonde kid, and it was just absolutely bizarre. Anyways, next track is called Painless. Builds with great like undistorted guitar and then other guitar, and the drums stutter in these drony sounds. More great snare production. I love the way he screams the chorus. This song is sort of the most straightforward. This is maybe the least in line with my vague understanding of Korean poetry in terms of it doesn't really have nature references. It's not really about nostalgia. It seems to really just be like a love song. Wake me up from anesthesia so I can't forget you anymore. There's no happiness when it is painless. I already know without saying what is scarier than the numbness is me after you go back. You know, this could be just straight up like, 2002 emo lyrics. I will say though, going back to the Proust thing, Proust does talk about how the nature of love is when it causes you pain. That's when you appreciate it. There's no happy when it's painless, is what Parannoul says. And what he says is, that like if you're with somebody and you feel like they're about to leave you, then you love them. But when you know you have them, you don't care anymore. Frank Ocean doesn't say that, so that's one way they go apart. Lights Off, Repentance, blasting guitar, pop and punk. This is really more just kind of a fun one. Cool keyboard behind. So cool, this beat at the end with the toms and the singing. It kind of cuts out with random noises. And these are just amazing lyrics of self-doubt. Let me just see if I need to take care of the baby. I'm just going to see. I might end up cutting, so we're going to see. Does she need like a diaper change or? No. Okay, because I can like pause it and take care of her for a little bit. I've only got like 10-15 minutes left.
Okay, but then, so now you stop recording?
No, it's recording. I can go back and just cut out this little section later, but would you prefer for me to go back?
Yes.
Okay. all good. These lyrics are just amazing lyrics of self-doubt. And that's the thing. Like, it is universal. A young dude singing about self-doubt is universal. Even the words, bring it on, become hard to say. The endless ambition has fallen flat. The past will laugh at me. Even the words take a breath like sarcasm. I live an incompetent every day. I sing hope because I don't have it. I still walk the path because I have regrets. I have no one else because I can't see. How I have no confidence because I have abandoned myself. It really does feel like a lot of this album is just about that sense of losing the self that he was when he was more anonymous, when he didn't know people, when he didn't have any confidence. He said here, sadness to sadness, memories to memories, everything in its right place. Had an illusion called self-loathing. Times have changed. I'm old enough to graduate. Even if I don't do anything, tomorrow comes. An illusion called self-loathing. Sometimes I'll talk about it on this channel. There are lyrics which will have burrowed into my brain, like RFK Jr. It just burrows into my brain, and that will just be there for the rest of my life. Had an illusion called self-loathing. I'll just have that stuck in my head. The illusion of self-loathing. It's great. And again, it's this whole idea of just tomorrow comes. Even if I don't do anything, tomorrow comes. And this a theme that we saw in that other poem that I read you, even if you look up on Wikipedia, the example of a specific kind of Korean poetry form called Sijo. The example they give is by a poet named Flora Kim. And does this not feel like a continuation of this song? Maybe today, may today be today, may every day be today. May each day never end, but if it does, may it dawn into today. Sorry. See, this is why I have my little clip. Get my hair out of my way. See? It's starting to go down. Now I don't have to be annoyed. Evoke Me is a 14-minute song. I wish I could say it's my favorite song on the album. It's not. I like it. It's good. I like the kind of downbeat moments. I like the way that it grows. I really like the kind of siren sounds and the drum breakdown and the gorgeous singing. My favorite part is there's some maybe some Beirut style horns. You know, if you know the band Beirut. It's another Big Ted band, even though they're not emo. I don't think this is working, is it? It's okay. I'm trying here. Okay. I normally do this before I hit record. Awesome blown out drums. But again, this song maybe feels more than any other sort of like the statement piece of his lyric. I look up at the sky 100 times. If I accept these feelings, I can't even hide with my eyes closed. Like those leaves falling and flowers blooming, I deceived myself. I don't want to grow old and ugly. Even the courage to not be perfect isn't special anymore. This guy, God damn it. God damn it. Listen to this lyric. Even the courage to not be perfect isn't special anymore. The courage to not be perfect? That is a hard line. Because if I assume this guy's a perfectionist, like I'm a perfectionist, like some people are, it's sort of a blessing, definitely a curse. It's my superpower. Everyone's, and this is what he says at the end of the song. Reality is sad, so why should the music be sad too? You should listen to something bright to change the mood. I'll try. Reminds me of what Tom York says. I don't know if he says everything in its right place earlier in reference to Radiohead, but he says that, that when music is happy, it's because times are sad. When things are going well, that's when you need sad music to remind you. I don't know. Saw the sky, it rained hundreds of eyes, they're killing me. To talk about myself, I'm overflowing with greed, I'm such a coward. So he's not only being solipsistic and talking about himself, he's being solipsistic and talking about himself. But this is the truth, this is honesty, and this concept of the sky seeing 100 of him, I love it. I love it. I love it because the Skye in Korea in 2007, looking down at the Skye who was walking around, the Professor Skye who was walking around, at that point, the graduate student Skye who was walking around, who'd just gotten a goddamn A- in that class from Professor Julian. I'll never forget that. I'll never forget crossing the street in Korea getting that bad grade. It's fascinating to think that the sky that's above us at all times is always looking down at us, that we are always, men under heaven, under the sky, or women, or non-bees, non-binaries. No one talks about it anymore. I don't know what it is. It's kind of an interlude. We need that after the last long song. Backwards, funky time signature. This is maybe the most Ted approved song. If you want to get like one song for your old emo head friend, you should do that. Kind of nice falsetto singing over what just basically sounds like a drum solo. More deep thoughts. Am I really the only one who sees my memories? I hate to keep talking about Marcel Proust and his search for lost time, Proust. But that's part of what he's so obsessed with, is how do you communicate memories and what is the value of communicating memories, and is that not what literature should be? The bass is amazing on here. There's so much instrumental stuff happening in here. We all live knowing when we will disappear. We all still live knowing we will disappear. Again, very existentialist stuff. Existentialist music. Meaning of regret. Is this an English lesson? I don't know. Did you know it's not that hard to get a job teaching English in Korea? That's why I went there. My former brother-in-law and my future sister-in-law, my future former sister-in-law, were teaching English in Korea, and so we were able to stay there for like a month. It was nice. Next track is called Fantasy. Loudest crash, the quietest interlude, maybe the most variance, most dynamics. I remember when my friend Ted listened to my band back in the day, he just said they needed to have more dynamics. This is maybe the most produced song. I don't know, maybe the most modular. There's like a little waltz in the middle. And then the final lyrics of the entire album are, only after falling I learned to fly. After overcoming myself, I accepted myself. There must be a fall to rise up again. After overcoming myself, I abandoned myself. Even if it's the same path, what you and me see is different. Changing is not meant to be sad. So it is everything that Riley said, right? It is a hopeful, thoughtful album. It is about hope. It is about positivity. But it takes you through this emotional, I don't want to say minefield, because there are actual active minefields in Korea. It takes you through like a very harrowing experience to get there. It takes you through an emotional jungle in order to get to the clearing. And it's solipsistic, but it's very relatable, as a lot of solipsistic thing is, because when you talk about yourself, you might be talking about someone else. So it's like his failures and his growth are all there, and changing is not meant to be sad. And it's not sad that the sky looks at hundreds of him or hundreds of you. What's your name? Okay? There's hundreds of you that the sky has seen. And you're different now than you were 5 years ago, and you'll be different 10 years ago. And changing is not meant to be sad. All right. So there's my review. I hope you liked it. Sorry for the little break there with the crying and all that stuff. It's all good. I'll hopefully get to go to Korea again. I'd really like to go back again. Seriously? The eels in Jinju? Like, you might think you've had eel that's tasty, like at a really good Japanese restaurant, some unagi. No, you have not had eel till you've been to Jinju, Korea. I sound like that Chris Jeffries commercial joke. The best tiki masala is in Phoenix. Anyways, I gotta stop talking. All right, until next time, there's the camera.